Again, to continue talking about JavaScript and working on our string library. In the last example, we created the capitalize function. I'm going to stick with my first solution here. I kind of like this one better. Let's add challenge number 2. So here's challenge number 2. So challenge number 2 is to create a function called all caps. Now, this is essentially the same thing as the string to uppercase. So it might seem like not useful. Sometimes though, it's useful for us to have an alias of a function that's easier and faster to type, right? So all caps is easier for me to remember than to uppercase, right? Especially when it has these uppercase letters in it. Like I often misspell those. All caps I'm never going to misspell. So this is an easy one. We'll basically just do the same thing we did before, right? We'll use to uppercase. So this might look something like this. You might say function all caps. This function would take a string as a parameter and return that string, but converted to uppercase. Okay, there we go. Yeah, actually, I guess we could test this too. We could say console log all caps for that string. Oh, and there we go, all caps, right? So we can copy this now and call that done. Challenge number 2. Later, we're going to write unit tests for this. So we'll have a way to test our code. Okay, let's take a look at challenge number 3. So challenge number 3 is capitalize words, right? So the goal of this is to make a function that looks at each word in a string and converts the first letter of each word to uppercase, right? So now we already have a function that converts like a string to uppercase, but all we need now is to split a string into words and then run each of those words through our uppercasing function, right? So for example, like if I had do all the things as a string, then do all the and things would be uppercased, okay? I have an advanced problem here, so if you want to try this, this would convert the first letter of each word to uppercase unless that word is the, in, a, and, but, for, at, by, and from. Okay, right? So, normally, like if I said do all the things, like the would not be uppercased here if we were trying to make this into like a headline for like a newspaper or a article or something, right? So that's the advanced version. So let's talk about the strategy, right? So the strategy that I'm going to present here is to use string split and to split on the space, right? So it's hard to see there, but there's actually a space in between those quotation marks. And we want to split on the space, and that'll give us an array of words. And then we can use the capitalize method to capitalize each of those words, right? So we'll need to loop over the array, capitalize each word, and then finally join all the words back together again with a space. Okay, and there's a couple ways to use this. I'm going to recommend using array map here, right? Because map is pretty good for this, right? So let's give it a try. We'll try it out in our REPL. So maybe we'll say, what was the name of that function? I think it was capitalize words, right? So let's just copy this, right? And we'll start here. We'll say capitalize words. It'll take a string in. And what I'd like to do here is to split that string on the space to create an array of words, right? So what we'll do is we'll say const array equals string split, and then we're going to split on the space, okay? And then what we'd like to do is to, let's do upper words. Actually, maybe I'll change this. Instead of array, let's call this words, right? So this will be the uppercase words, right? And what we'll do is we'll take the words and map them. Okay, so map is a method on the array that lets you transform an array. So essentially I have an array of strings here, and I want to create an array of strings that have uppercase letters in them. Okay, so what you can do is you can put a function here as the parameter for map. I'll put a space in there to make it kind of clear, but there I've added an arrow function. You can use a regular function if you want to. Speaking of which, I forgot to put function there. There we go. So you can use a regular function here if you want, but arrow functions are kind of nice as these callback in these callbacks, right? So I'm going to put the function in here, and what's going to happen is the array of words right here, map, is going to take each element from the array and pass it into this function. So essentially I'll have a word here, right? And then you're going to return the transformed word. And if you do everything on one line with an arrow function, you don't need to say return. The return is implied, and you don't need to include the curly brackets. So we can even shorten the syntax here. And actually, if you only have one parameter, you don't even need the parentheses. So I can just make this function look like this, right? So we're going to return the capitalized word. Right, so if we call capitalize and we pass a word in, then capitalize should do these things, return return the new word. I'm actually going to go back to my old version because that's what we're actually using in the other code. That way this will match when I get to the other code, right? Though I guess it won't really matter. But anyway, we'll call capitalize word. It'll pass word in here as a string. We'll uppercase the first letter, slice it, combine the two back together, and return it. And when this returns, the word will come out here, and then this function is actually going to return the word and add it to the array here. Okay? And then last, we want to combine all those words together with a space. And it's the same thing we did here with join, except we'll use a space instead of the empty string. So I'm going to return upper words dot join, and then I'm going to join on the space. Now, for certain things in language and foreign languages and things like that, this might not be quite enough to cover every circumstance because language is pretty complicated, right? But this should cover like 99% of the problem. So there might be some edge cases on this, but I think that this is a pretty solid solution, right? And if you really wanted to publish this for the world and you were going to use it on Facebook or something, we might have to do a little more work, but this pretty much solves most of the problem. So let's try that out and we'll give it a test. So we'll need to pass a string in here that we can use. So let's call capitalize words. And maybe I'll comment out our previous tests. And maybe we'll do console log. And we'll pass the string in there. And then maybe we'll do another one here. Maybe let's do a string here. We'll say foobar, and we'll do a third test here. We'll say as I was walking down the street. I don't know, right? Actually walking to work, right? That will fit on the same line. So there we go. Hopefully it should capitalize each of these elements, right? Oh, as I was walking to work, right? Foobar, hello world. So that looks like it's working. So now that we've got that kind of solved, we can take this function and add it to our library of code. I just realized maybe you couldn't have seen that, right? I maybe had it off the edge of the screen, but that looks like it's kind of working there. Let's see. So I'll paste it here, and that's challenge number 3. Okay. And just as a quick example, if you want to test this with Node, let's write a couple tests for Node. So, I could take the examples here and paste them in the bottom of the file here. Let me uncomment these, right? And if I want to run the code in this file in Node, I can open up a terminal, and maybe I'll clear that terminal too, and we can say Node and then which file we want to run. So index.js, right? Oops, and then I got an error here. Let me see. Capitalized. I must have misspelled something, right? Oh, string is not defined, right? Because I forgot these guys call on string right here. So let's just change this to hello world. Right, and then I'll clear this. And we'll run node index.js again. Oops, string is not defined. Wait, where did I put that again? Let me see here, line 25. Oh, you know what? I forgot to save. No wonder it didn't. Let's save and then do it. There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. Right. So now we got hello world, foobar, fourscore, hello, foobar, right? So these should just uppercase the first letter. And down here, this uppercases each word, right? Or the first letter of each word in the string. Okay. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully that's moving your projects forward and helping you solve the problems.